Hello, it's Anna Pacheco, SantaFe101.com. My guest today is Tilly Nichols, and she is the director for the Espanola Valley Chamber of Commerce. Tilly, do I have your permission to record this interview?
Yes, you do.
Oh, good. Well, the first thing I wanted to comment is I love your shirt. If you want to just kind of move back so we can all see that, that is beautiful. So tell me a little bit about the shirt you're wearing. Let's talk about that first.
Well, it was a gift for me to me from a local vendor, a local merchant. I also own a small business here in Espanola. It's a gift shop gallery, and I make jewelry. And sometimes some of our vendors come in with some really neat gifts for me that represent New Mexico, which is kind of what we try to do in our store.
And that is the Zia symbol, which is on our state flag. And that was actually created by Velino Shea Herrera from Zia Pueblo. He actually gave permission to the state of New Mexico in 1920 to put that on their flag, only to be excommunicated from his pueblo for doing that. That's another story. I don't go into that too much when I do these tours and things. I tell people about that, but that's a beautiful symbol. And so tell me, before we even talk about the chamber, this is interesting because you are a small business owner up in the Espanola Valley. Tell me a little bit about your own business. What is it called?
My business is called Chimayo Rocks, and we started out in a 500 square foot building about 4 years ago. After I had been doing various art markets and crafts fairs and traveling quite a bit, I decided that it was time for me to put down roots and start my business in a brick and mortar building. So I started literally with only about $500, and my passion for polishing stones. I started out as a rock hound, which means I pick up rocks, whether it be out hiking in nature or whether I find them in people's driveways or yards. I've always had a passion for gems and minerals and rocks, and I polish them and make them into jewelry, and that's kind of how our store started. But since then, we've really taken off and grown into supporting the art community around us. We're now in a 4,500 square foot building, and we represent 17 artists from here in Espanola. So we have stuff from all across the board. It's not just gems and minerals anymore. We have paintings, clothing, different types of beautiful artwork that represent Espanola very well.
And Espanola is an interesting place because you're in close proximity to at least 3 of the Native American Indian pueblos. So do you carry any of their work in your gallery?
I do. Most of my interaction with the Native people from the pueblos, though, has been around my stones, and that's because a lot of the gemstones they like to use, including turquoise and coral and jaspers and things like that, have become mostly imported from out of the country. And they appreciate the fact that we do it by hand and we do it the old way and we do it right here in Espanola. So most of my native clients are customers looking for that unique one-of-a-kind piece to put in their artwork.
Interesting. And let me just ask you, why is your business called Chimayo rather than Espanola?
Because I started in Chimayo. That's where I live, and we tried to start our shop there, and we got all our paperwork in order, and we had a beautiful sign that we painted, and it didn't work out. We were too far out for us to be able to come up with a business model that could support our business. Oh my goodness. Let me just go hang that up really quick.
Sure.
Forgot about the office phone. Got the cell phone, forgot about the office phone. Okay, sorry about that.
That's quite all right. And then so people that might be watching this is really an interesting little tidbit about Espanola. Well, a couple of interesting things. So New Mexico was founded as a the colony. There had been expeditions through New Mexico in 1540 and then in 1591, but it wasn't until 1598 where this expedition led by Don Juan de Oñate actually made it up from Mexico City along the Camino Real. It was a 15-mile trek, trade route up here, and it actually ended real close to Espanola, right near, it used to be called San Juan Pueblo. It's San Juan Pueblo went back to their original name in 2008, I believe. It's called Okeowinge Pueblo. So right around there was the first settlement of New Mexico. And for whatever reason, within 3 or 4 years, the colonists decided to move down to Santa Fe, probably because we were more surrounded by mountains. That's an interesting tidbit about Espanola. The other interesting thing about Espanola, my sister used to be the city attorney up there. So you're right next to Santa Clara Pueblo, San Juan, Okeowinge Pueblo, and then a little bit San Ildefonso, it's a little bit further. But depending where you are in the city of Espanola, like if you committed a crime, they may call the police of Espanola, but if you're on the other side of the street, they may call the state police, or if you're on the other side of the street, they may call one of the tribal police departments. So that's the interesting thing about Espanola. It's kind of a mishmash of different pueblos and the city and the county, and I think that's
and to take that even a step further, we're also kind of a city divided in the sense that half of our city is in Santa Fe County and half of our city is in Rio Arriba County.
That's the other
for business owners. That's a definite interesting thing, because business laws and licenses and taxes change depending on which part of the patchwork you're in. So that's another interesting fact. And it really actually never came to my attention as much as until the pandemic, because for a while there, Santa Fe was allowed to reopen and Rio Arriba was still closed. So you had business owners that shared property line that were side by side with completely different rules and regulations to follow, which was really interesting for a little bit there. Luckily, Rio Arriba has caught up now and we're in the reopening phase, which makes the division a little less noticeable, but that was a really interesting time for us.
That part didn't even occur to me. So let me ask you, in terms of the counties, like if you're going to open a business in your area, the Espanola Valley, so is Santa Fe County, just from your experience now, do they have, are their rules and regulations easier or better to work with, or are Rio Arribas, or is there a difference?
Yes, there is. And some of it may be more perception, but from my understanding and from my personal experience, there's things like the minimum wage is higher in Santa Fe County. And that can really make a difference when people are seeking a business location. And also the tax rates are different. And that was sort of my inspiration. I've always tried to stay on the Rio Arriba side, only because for me, I like and I find the smaller town politics to be a little easier to navigate, only because Santa Fe isn't my home. So my people that I know and my colleagues are mostly from the Rio Arriba side of things. So I wouldn't even know who to call in Santa Fe if I needed something.
So in terms of I like what you said about the minimum wage. So somebody in Espanola, that if they're working on the Santa Fe County side, those businesses are required to pay that minimum wage. And then on the Rio Arriba side, they're not. And so what is the difference? Do you know what the minimum wage is?
I think it's in the $7 range versus the $10 range.
So I think Santa Fe might be 11 now. I'm not sure, but so
it's 11 now.
It's about 7 for Rio Arriba. So that's something to think about if somebody's watching this program and they're thinking of opening a business, and they are going to have employees, that is, that's either beneficial information to know, or it's detrimental if you're just dead set on the Santa Fe County. And would you I mean, I know you're not a realtor, and this isn't a fair question to ask you, but would you know if real estate is more expensive on the side where there's Santa Fe County versus Rio Arriba?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Isn't that funny though? It never occurred to me. I knew about the legal stuff because my sister was the attorney up there, but it didn't occur to me that, just living in the city of Espanola, it's a tale of two cities. It really is.
Right. It is. And I have to say that, you know, I'm not a real estate expert either, but with my experience with the businesses since I've been with the Chamber of Commerce and in my personal experience, Rio Arriba and Espanola are kind of an unsung hero right now. In the news, if you look, there might be some bad press and things that, you know, might make people think Espanola isn't the most fantastic place to start a business. But what I've found is that Espanola is one of the last places that I can foresee in maybe even in the nation, but locally, where landlords are still willing to do business on a handshake and a promise. And there are plenty of vacant buildings to occupy. And working with the city has been incredibly easy. They walk you through all of your business licensing. They're working on making their business, you know, their planning and zoning department more friendly to incoming businesses. Anywhere else in the country that I had been, starting my business with $500 in a 500 square foot shop would have been an impossibility. You hear all the time, you have to have the money for your first 3 years business plan. You have to have this, you have to have that. And here in Espanola, it's one of the last places where you really can see a building on the side of the road and say, hey, I could imagine myself in that space, and you can make it happen. And that's one of the really under talked about parts about the Valley here. We have so many beautiful small businesses, and so many of them have survived through the pandemic because the small town atmosphere really fosters the independent mindset.
How many members does the Espanola Chamber have right now?
132.
And of those,
Yeah.
are they mostly small business, like restaurants, or what are the different types of, what is the economic engine? I know there's different components to an engine, but can you mention some of the different businesses?
So definitely, I'm going to state the obvious first. We're a community that that is very heavily enmeshed with Los Alamos. A lot of the people that I know here work at the lab or for the lab. So that's probably one of the bigger economic, you know, anchors here. But we have everything from restaurants that are being run out of a shed to the most glamorous and beautiful full service, you know, fine dining, all in one street. And there's so many small businesses. We have, you know, CNC motorcycles, and we have a store called Spagna Vida, and you know, stores that are celebrating the local flavor and the small town appeal. And for me, those are the businesses that are closest to my heart. And then of course we have the regular, you know, Walmart, the grocery stores, the schools, you know, all of that. But I think what gives Espanola its charm is the independent, artistic, free-spirited side of it.
Well, this is just like a little secret, but I'll let you in and on anybody who's watching this. You know, again, Santa Fe is my hometown, and we old time Santa Feans, there's a few of us still here, but there, you know, we're fewer and far between. We go to Espanola to eat because it reminds us of the food we ate, you know,
Right.
growing up here. Because Santa Fe, I mean, the food is excellent in Santa Fe, but the northern New Mexico cuisine, it's been watered down to cater to the tourists. If we want the real deal, we'll go up to Espanola for that. And so that small time, you know, that's, and again, Santa Fe is now a sophisticated small town, so it's like a little mini LA. Everyone's from somewhere else, but Espanola still has that feel where you see people, you know people. I actually go, there's a bakery up there called Love and Oven. I go get my bizcochitos at Christmas. I go up there to get the bizcochitos of the Mexico State cookie. It's made with anise. We call it anise in Spanish. And so I go up there for my cookies. Dino Chavez owns the place. It's the kind of place where it's you know, your word means something and you can shake a hand. It's not as, it's a little bit more laid back, but you get things done. I mean, I remember a few years ago, in terms of tourism, the city had like this little area where they maybe they still do it. They switch out different exhibits. I actually have a photo here in my office of an exhibit that I had there maybe 10 years ago. But So the city, in terms of tourism, is doing a good job in trying to promote tourism. People, once you, if you're in Santa Fe, everybody's heard of Santa Fe, and then they've also actually heard of Taos. Well, Espanola is, you're going to go through Espanola. There's two ways to go to up there, but the fastest, the most efficient way to go is right through Espanola. So there's a lot to stop and see, and of course, for sure, you want to eat in Espanola. That's what I always tell people.
That's one of the things that, as I started understanding more about tourism and working with the Chamber of Commerce, and my office here at the Chamber of Commerce is actually in the plaza in the Welcome Center. So we're kind of front and center when it comes to giving tourists maps and ideas of what to do in this area. And that's something that I've really been working on with the city, is how to differentiate Espanola in a way where it's not the place you stop for gas in between Taos and Santa Fe. And there are so many hidden gems and hidden secrets here, and special things that you can do, and places that are just within, a half hour's driving distance of here. And it's been an interesting task, and especially through the times we've been through recently, to try to help Espanola be more than just, a pit stop on your way between two places. And I think
because you also go through Espanola to get to Ojo Caliente, where they have the famous
Chama Highway.
Yeah, the Chama Highway. So there's like three reasons to definitely, not only do you have to go through Espanola, but you might as well stop there. Exactly.
Right, exactly. And, as we're starting to return to normal and we're allowed to have tourists, and our Welcome Center is going to be able to reach out more, it's kind of been my biggest project right now, is how to show people what Espanola has to offer. And a lot of that does have a tie back to the Native American community, which you were mentioning earlier. We have the different Native American cultural exhibits. We have the cliff dwellings over in Santa Clara. We have a place probably no one's ever heard about. It's called the Feasting Place. And it's there on the Okeawinge grounds. And it's a family, Norma Naranjo runs it. And it's a place where you can stop in and learn how to make bread in an horno, and learn how to create food in the traditional way. And experiences like that, instead of just being a tourist destination, can really be a life changer, in the sense that being involved in seeing the horno running and eating the food and seeing the efforts that have gone into making the food can change your perspective about what you're seeing when you go through. So,
and what it is too is that, but it is, Espanola has not been gentrified yet, or maybe never will. And for people that are watching this, Espanola means Spanish because it was a Spanish who founded this area. We're close to the end of the interview now, but if somebody is watching this and they're thinking, they want to start a business in Espanola, or it's more affordable to live there. Maybe they want to be more closer to a small town feel, but within proximity, of course, to Santa Fe and Taos and Los Alamos. What are some of the businesses that you could see that would really benefit the city of Espanola? What's lacking?
So this is my personal opinion. Things like bookstores, and we just lost our only independent coffee shop. It wasn't due to the pandemic, it was due to the building being sold, but a small coffee shop where locals can gather and get their coffee in the morning if they don't necessarily want to support the national chains. Things like bookstores, clothing stores. We don't have a lot of variety in that sense, where you pretty much have to buy your clothes at Walmart if you can't leave town. And it would be nice to have a little more variety and things like that. Also, it would really benefit Espanola and somebody who is interested in doing it to have some type of activity or event center where maybe youth can get together and, in Santa Fe and larger cities, there's places where kids can get together and fellowship and do fun things, like a skating rink or, anything like that. And we don't have a lot of that here. So that's kind of my opinion.
And what about a
But
tour? I mean, are there tour guides in Espanola, or could somebody with a little bit of initiative, could they put together, is there enough to see in Espanola where, you'd have a couple hours where you go to different parts where, where you could take them to Owinge Pueblo, or to show them that Orno?
we were really highly into the development of that type of material when COVID hit. So right now
Everybody's dreams are,
it's so hard because there's so many places that I want to tell people to go, but we're not back up into the full swing of things yet.
but
So
it'll happen. It'll happen.
it'll
I mean,
happen.
all of us,
Mhm.
so many of us
There's
have
tons
dreams.
of stuff to do. We
Right.
have a resource right here on the plaza where we have the gift shop and the visitor center and the Chamber of Commerce. Just outside the plaza, there's the Bondhouse Museum, which has exhibits and photos of Espanola back when Espanola was part of the Chile line. We had our own train that went to Colorado and back to take Chile up north. And that's why we have Railroad Avenue here, but there's no railroad tracks anymore.
The other cool thing about Espanola is the Rio Grande River goes right through the town.
Right through it. Mhm.
I want to ask you this because we are definitely out of town. I'm going to end this interview, but in terms of restaurants, I know there's great northern New Mexico food up there, and there's chain restaurants. But what if somebody opened, like they wanted to open like a mom and pop Italian or maybe Middle Eastern? I mean, do you think other restaurants would make a go of it there? I mean,
Yes.
would they be enough to support, from because you have the surrounding communities, people from Chimayo, they come down to Espanola to do their shopping, or even at
Yes.
Los Alamos, they probably come to eat and stuff.
You'd
So
be surprised. We have people coming from, all the way up north, Coyote and, Gallina and all these places, Ojo. And, we're really actually a hub for a very vast, large space.
So I think that in surrounding areas, like different types of restaurants would do well there. Well, it is time to end the interview. It's so neat to have met somebody who's also, you're not only are you running the chamber and helping other businesses, but you have your own business, and more power to you. I wish you all the best. Is there anything you want to end with in case somebody's watching this? Could you send people information, or does the city, the chamber, do you folks get together to like encourage or help businesses to move there?
One of the greatest projects that I've been recently tasked with is I'm working with the Planning and Zoning Department through the city of Espanola, and we're creating a database of vacant commercial buildings. So if somebody wants to move their business to Espanola, we will have a searchable database that has the addresses, the phone numbers, and the amenities for vacant buildings that are either for rent or for sale, so that if people come and drive through town and they see a building that might interest them, they can reference it in the guide and find out who they need to call for information regarding that building, which I think is going to be an incredible resource for us as far as growth is concerned in the future. I'm really excited and proud that the city is working with the chamber on that project, and that will be hosted on the city and the chamber website within the next month or so.
Excellent. Well, again, I want to thank you. All the best to you. And we're getting things are getting better. We're going to get out of this pandemic together, and it's going to be better for all of us. I do thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you.
Take care.